see the show? Anytime we months they end like this way, but the body could prepare and anyone bring back money to pay salary. That's what they do. See, the station go peak. It go peak, but it's not something that you that just no. You choose it start. The station go peak well. Maybe say go come. I been help me.
Yeah, maybe stay for this place. Yeah, not the best. We should present government house official.
How far would you walk by? That job, the primary duty. I thought what is
this man give us. Not everybody. This thing where the man goes down.
I need to speak to this person. I heard of doctor. Of course, now people with the duty, with the morning duty.
For House of Assembly, report of 20,000 every month. Cameraman 10,000. House of Assembly.
Well.
Every month. I don't want to talk now. No. Even before. They want increase in 20 for cameraman. But report 20 official now. They do small demonstration and they increase House of Assembly. Oversight, we give 40,000, 30.
For government house, like this.
If you use a phone,
government house now is like 40.
Oversight, we get
40 camera. Before 30, 20, but now they make it
every month for government house.
every month.
40. How much is 40,000?
Well,
What be 40,000? You talk how much is 40,000?
oversight, we get cameraman, so that oversight, we get 30,000. Just cover 10 minutes. Oversight. I know it's not small money, but use some time.
You something, is even better than at all.
And contact, this man will come today. Because now I'm a coach man, serious bad man. But now my area guy, he know me very well. Contact, you will get contact. Another
Number the man.
son, okay. You know the number on my line, then I phone my wife.
What's mine?
What area man?
They
never talk to you.
never say anything.
On my phone, check on it.
Some incentives will better. If they see you, they will respect you. That's how this NTA is based.
Happy.
Talent plenty here.
Hey, can you talk to me? I can't hear anything. Is it? Yeah, I can hear now. Put that for 16. That's that one day for 16.
How many now?
I hear for 14.
How many?
I don't hear that one. 14.
Are you here? It is not net change.
It changed. I think it's 16.
16.
Okay, I can hear. Tell her to talk. Wait. Tell her to talk. I heard her say Ikadrom. Yes.
I'm not gonna put down for.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Global News and Signature TV. I'm Charles Pius. In the headlines, National Economic Council approves new livestock and textile development plan for the country. UNICEF says vaccines have saved 154 million lives in 50 years. Kenyan leader stresses multilateralism as pillar of global trade stability. And Brazil judge orders ex-president Collor's arrest after corruption sentence. Details shortly. Guy, you dey make noise now. The National Economic Council, NEC, is routing for the modernization of livestock production in Nigeria to address the clashes between herders and farmers being witnessed in various parts of the country. The decision was reached during the 149th meeting of the Council held at the Presidential Villa in Abuja and presided over by Vice President Kashim Shettima. Brief status correspondent. Shortly after the meeting, Governor Duyoderi of Bayelsa State said the Council agreed that the country cannot continue to live in the past, but should rather work towards modernizing livestock production. Governor Deri explained that the new Ministry of Livestock Development revealed an accelerated livestock development and growth strategy, which targets to boost revenue generation from the sector to between $70 billion and $90 billion by 2035. He said NEC also gave the green lights for the establishment of a cotton, textile, and garments development board aimed at revitalizing agribusiness as part of broader efforts to reshape the national economy and address insecurity at its roots. The meeting, which began with a minute of silence in honor of those killed in recent attacks in Benue and Plateau states, agreed that the new board will function under the presidency, with leadership from the private sector and funding sourced from the textile import levy managed by the Nigerian Customs Service. Thursday's monthly meetings failed to discuss the issue of state police despite the worsening security situation in the country. No fewer than 15 travelers were on Thursday abducted by gunmen along the Ado-Naka Road in the West local government area of Benue State. The secretary of the Nigerian Union of Road Transport Workers in charge of high-level unit, Yakubu Onu, who confirmed the incident to journalists, lamented the ordeal of transporters plying the road. Onu said 2 vehicles conveying the travelers, the first carrying 9 passengers from high-level motor park in Makurdi on route Lokoja before 6 out of the 9 passengers were abducted and taken to the bush before the second vehicle coming from Amba in Kogi heading to Makurdi. Passengers ran into the kidnappers and were also abducted at the same spot. The traditional ruler of Tioshin in Gwe West, Daniel Abomse, who also confirmed that the 2 commercial vehicles were hijacked and passengers abducted on Naka Adoka Road, said the incident happened just 3 kilometers to Naka town. Benue State has recently come under serious attacks by suspected headsmen, leading to many deaths and prompting the state governor, Hussein Salia, to call for more federal intervention and increased presence of security agencies to check the killings. Still from Benue State, 7 people, including women and children, were confirmed killed and several others missing in fresh attack by armed headers on Abo Vengav community of Udam in Gua West local government area of Benue State. The first killings occurred around 1 a.m. Friday morning when the gunmen suspected to be headsmen launched an attack on the community. A source who spoke on condition of anonymity said the little girl child was killed while her mother was taken away by the headsman, and until now her whereabouts remained unknown. The assailants came in the middle of the night when people had retired to bed and started attacking the community. A former Chief of Naval Staff, Rear Admiral Alison Madueke, has added his voice to the call for the establishment of state police to help tackle the worsening insecurity in various parts of the country. Admiral Madueke made the call while addressing the Economic Development Summit put together by the chairman of Oji River Local Government Area, Greg Ayabudike, at the council headquarters in Oji River. He regretted that even when governors are labeled as chief security officers of their various states, they have no control over the police in their states. Madueke, who was also a former governor of the old Anambra State, commended the local governments for organizing the summit, which he said is the first of its kind in the area. He, however, suggested that issues such as access to land or industrial estates and provision of power should be addressed to bring about the much desired economic development. The Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of the Enugu State Investment Development Authority, Dr. Sam Obuomobodo, has charged local government authorities in Enugu State to establish economic development plans to fast-track development in their areas. Dr. Obu gave the charge in a paper he delivered at the Economic Development Summit organized by the Oji River Local Government Council. Workers of the Nigerian Meteorological Agency (NIMET) have ended their strike following the federal government's intervention. The industrial action, which had disrupted flight operations nationwide, was called off after a meeting with the Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development, Festus Keyamo, in Abuja. The workers had downed tools over issues such as delayed implementation of the new national minimum wage, exclusion of some pass allowances, and neglect of essential training programs. The meeting was attended by NIMET's Director General, officials from the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority (NCAA), and representatives of the various aviation unions, including the National Union of Air Transport Employees and the Association of Nigerian Aviation Professionals. The two-day strike had caused major disruptions at key airports, including Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport in Abuja and Murtala Mohammed International Airport in Lagos, leaving many passengers stranded. The federal government has announced plans to initiate forensic audits of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited (NNPCL). The Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Wale Edun, has revealed that the recent shake-up at the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited (NNPCL) is part of a broader effort by the federal government to conduct a thorough audits of the company. Speaking at the Nigerian Investors Forum held alongside the IMF World Bank spring meetings in Washington, D.C., Edwin said, the government is undertaking key reforms to reposition the economy, rebuild investors' confidence, and attract private capital. Central Bank Governor Olayemi Cardoso also addressed the forum, noting that Nigeria's economy is on the path to stabilization and recovery, crediting recent policy decisions. He stressed the country's firm commitment to orthodox monetary policy, saying there would be no backtracking. The Minister of State for Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction, Dr. Yusuf Sununu, has appealed to the development partners for support in implementing the National Homegrown School Feeding Program. Speaking at a meeting in Abuja with non-governmental organizations and government officials, Sununu said the program aims to fight child hunger and promote education through daily nutrition meals made from local sourced produce, benefiting both pupils and local farmers. He stressed the need for transparency, accountability, and stakeholder collaboration for the program's success. What's with the delay now? Why are you not pushing it properly? Why are you delaying? Sununu, who revealed that the relaunch is set for May 29th to coincide with President Bola Tinubu's second year in office, called for community participation training of cooks and greater inclusion of women and smallholder farmers. The National Program Manager, Dr. Aderemi Adebowale, said the school feeding program is about long-term investment in children and communities, with 100 billion naira allocated in the 2025 budget to scale up its project. Adewale also mentioned collaboration with the National Identity Management Commission to ensure proper registration and tracking of beneficiaries to enhance transparency and quality. The National Social Investment Programs Agency CEO, Dr. Badamasi Lawal, represented by Dr. Binta Musa, described the relaunch as a major step towards addressing malnutrition and inequality, urging stakeholders to collaborate towards achieving SDGs on hunger, education, and poverty. This TV know they talk out again though. I don't know if you've noticed. I don't know what talking out. Up ahead, lawyers demand NBA leadership resignation over 300 million naira Rivers scandal. First Lady calls for lasting solution to end malaria. These and more after the break. To stay with us.
Now see this place. This place now Ebonyi State shopping mall. This is Ebonyi State shopping mall. It's one of the worst mistakes Ebonyi State government have made so far. Building here. It's the worst mistake they have.
Welcome back. A former Minister of Women Affairs, Pauline Tallen, has called on the political parties in the country to amend their constitutions and mandatorily allocate 50% of appointments and elective positions to women. Tallen made the appeal while delivering a keynote address at a two-day capacity building conference organized by the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies and the Inter-Party Advisory Council in Abuja. Tallen also suggested that President Bola Tinubu, as a former governor, senator, and pro-democracy activist, should lead the charge for gender inclusion, stressing that his leadership can make a defining difference. Tallen, a former deputy governor of Plateau State and one-time Minister of State, Science and Technology, described women as the bedrock and spice of every successful electioneering campaigns or political movement. The former minister noted that while Rwanda was leading globally, with women occupying 64% of the parliamentary seats, Nigeria has just 17 women out of 360 House of Reps and 4 out of 109 senators. Also speaking, the national chairman of the Inter-Party Advisory Council, Yusuf Dantale, acknowledged women's vital contributions and their efforts in addressing digital challenges. He said that while issues like discrimination and underrepresentation persisted, they were not insurmountable. A coalition of women under the aegis of Rivers Women United for SEAM staged a peaceful protest in Port Harcourt calling for the restoration of peace in Rivers State and the reinstatement of suspended Governor Siminalayi Fubara. The women who turned out in large numbers described Rivers as a peaceful state and urged President Bola Tinubu to intervene in the lingering political crisis. They called for the reinstatement of all suspended elected officials, insisting that Governor Fubara had committed no wrongdoing to justify his pension. The protest, which began along the major road and advanced to the Rivers State Government House, featured placards with bold descriptions such as "Bring back Fubara," "Save our democracy," "Is the law different for Rivers State?" and "God of justice, arise for Rivers State." Chanting songs of solidarity, and women who described themselves as mothers and wives appealed directly to President Bola Tinubu to lift the suspension on Governor Fubara and reinstate all democratic institutions in the state. Women have been protesting and rallying for the reinstatement of Fubara since his suspension in March. A coalition of top legal practitioners, the public interest lawyers, has demanded the resignation of the president of the Nigerian Bar Association, NBA, Afamosigwe, and the chairman of the NBA Annual General Conference Organizing Committee, Emeka Obegono, over the controversy surrounding a 300 million naira payments from the Rivers State government. At a press conference in Abuja, Peel, President Abdul Mahmoud urged the NBA to refund the money sum which was reportedly paid by the suspended Governor Siminalayi Fubara for the NBA's annual conference, which has now been shifted from Port Harcourt to Enugu. Mahmoud condemned the secrecy surrounding the transaction, which he said was not reflected in any official disclosures or acknowledged by the organizing committee, insisting that the NBA should release an audited financial report of all funds related to the 2025 conference. The league resolved that the NBA must return the 300 million naira as a gesture of responsibility and warned it would pursue legal advocacy routes if necessary and vowed to mobilize advocates and litigate to ensure the rule of law starts with the bar itself. Despite relocating the event to Enugu, the NBA insists the money was a goodwill gesture, not a bribe. Ambrose Ali University, AAU, Eboma, has rusticated 34 students from the College of Medicine for involvement in examination malpractice during the 2022-2023 academic session. According to a bulletin signed by university officials, the disciplinary action followed the findings of the Mobile Students Disciplinary Committee. Affected students are from 300, 400, and 500 levels across departments, including hematology, histopathology, physiology, and medicine. Out of the 34 students, 21 were suspended for 2 semesters, while 31 received 4-semester suspension. 6 students were cleared of wrongdoing, 2 were cautioned, and 1 was warned. Offenses included bringing unauthorized materials into exams, impersonation, and misconduct during papers such as the HAE 503, MB 504, and PTH 503. The First Lady, Oluremi Tinubu, has called for joint action to end the malaria scourge in Nigeria as the country joins the rest of the international community to mark the 2025 World Malaria Day. In a statement issued by her media aide, Busola Kukoyi, on Friday to commemorate the World Malaria Day, Mrs. Tinubu noted that malaria is not just a public health challenge for Nigeria, but a national emergency. Tinubu, who acknowledged the fact that Nigeria still bears the heaviest global burden of the disease, said more than hard work is needed to reverse the trend. The First Lady urged the people to keep a healthy environment and personal hygiene to be safe from any form of illness, while telling the government agencies, private sector partners, NGOs, health workers, and community leaders to recommit to the fight against malaria with urgency and resolve. The World Health Organization, WHO, says malaria has continued to be a significant global health challenge, particularly in Africa, where it remains a leading cause of morbidity and mortality. The WHO estimates that Nigeria has nearly 67 million cases of malaria, accounting for 31% of global malaria deaths and 38% of global deaths in children under 5. The United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF, has described vaccine as one of humanity's greatest health achievements, noting that essential immunizations have saved more than 154 million lives in the last 50 years. This was stated by the Chief of Field Office at UNICEF Enugu, Juliet Chiluwe, during a two-day media dialogue in Enugu to commemorate the 2025 World Immunization Week. Chiluwe noted that the theme of this year's campaign, Immunization for All, is humanly possible, reflects plans for the widespread immunization drive across 12 key states of Abia, Akwa Ibom, Anambra, Bayelsa, Cross River, Benue, Ebonyi, Enugu, Rivers, Delta, Imo, and Kogi. She expressed hope for the initiative's success, which she said is aimed at strengthening access to quality immunization, particularly for children. The event, co-organized with the Broadcasting Corporation of Abia States, gathered media representatives from the targeted states who committed to supporting and closely tracking the campaign, especially in rural communities. The Minister of Women Affairs, Mrs. Suleiman Ibrahim, has disclosed that about 80,000 Nigerian women die annually due to toxic smoke from firewood and traditional cooking stoves. She made the statement at a stakeholders engagement on ending energy poverty for Nigerian women and families held in Abuja. Correspondent Josephine Bitrus reports. The World Bank Group says it has added the President and Chief Executive Officer of Dangote Group, Aliko Dangote, and others as new members of the Private Sector Investment Lab focused on job creation. Other new members added by the World Bank are Bill Anderson, CEO, Bayer AG, Sunil Bharti Mittal, Chair, Bharti Enterprises, and Mark Hoplamazin, President of CEO, Hyatt Hotels Corporation. The World Bank Group announced the launch of the next phase of its Private Sector Investment Lab focused on implementing proven solutions at scale. The new chapter also expands the lab's membership to include industry leaders with experience generating jobs in developing economies, aligning directly with the bank's sharpened focus on job creation as a core driver of development. The World Bank Group President Ajay Banga said the expanded membership will help in mainstreaming the work of the bank across all operations and tying it directly to the jobs agenda. The lab has brought together leaders from global financial institutions over the last 18 months to identify the most pressing barriers to private sector investments in developing countries. The Enugu State Governor, Peter Amba, has promised full participation of the state contingent in the forthcoming National Sports Festival, holding from May 16th to May 30th this year in Abeokuta, the Enugu State's capital. Governor Amba gave the assurance while receiving the festival torch of unity in Enugu. Mbahu was represented by the Commissioner for Youth and Sports Development, Lloyd Ekwerimadu, who commended the initiators of the festival, which he said has created a bond of unity among Nigerians. The governor said that through the sports festival, many talents have been discovered to represent Nigeria in various international competitions across the world. The team leader, Unity Cup from the National Sports Commission, Mbora Ikana, said the torch was in the States to inform the state government that the festival was about to kick off. Still to come, conservative leader Paul Era holds rally in Saxonto. South Korea's former President Moon says a bribery indictment is political. To stay with us. Welcome back. Globalization of trade is an irreversible trend, and countries around the world should seek win-win outcomes by pursuing multilateralism, according to Kenyan President William Ruto, who is on a state visit to China this week at the invitation of Chinese President Xi Jinping. In an exclusive interview, Ruto said that only multilateralism can ensure the stability of global trade, and there will be no winners from the United States' unilateral imposition of sweeping tariffs. Go ahead. When I find waiting to do this TV doesn't talk out anymore. It doesn't talk out. I don't know whether you guys will touch something or maybe tell them to come and fix it. This TV doesn't talk out. Normally, when you put it on, you can hear something, but you no longer hear anything.
But it's on mute.
It's on mute, but I mean, that's what I'm saying now. Don't tell me what I'm doing. It was terrible this morning. I was interviewing somebody and I couldn't hear what the person is saying. Ruto said more efforts should be invested in multilateralism rather than unilateralism and described the globalization of trade as an existential imperative. Sister Olga Musango, the news of Pope Francis passing stirred memories of a defining moment in her life, of when she helped coordinate his 2019 visit to Mozambique at the time when the country was still recovering from the deadly impact of Cyclone Ida. 3 decades later, her role once again centered on supporting local broadcasters and helping prepare materials used during the visit of Pope Francis. This time, the context was different but equally urgent. Mozambique was grappling with the aftermath of Cyclone Ida, which had left thousands displaced. She remembers him as grounded and approachable. For Sister Olga, the experience of working behind the scenes of 2 papal visits decades apart remains a rare privilege and a reminder of the Church's presence in moments of crisis. Her hope is that the message Pope Francis brought in 2019 continues to resonate across Mozambique. Meanwhile, Cuban President Luis Diaz-Canel attended a mass at the Havana Cathedral to pay tribute to Pope Francis ahead of the pontiff's funeral in the Vatican City. He was greeted by the Apostolic Nuncio in the Caribbean nation, Antoine Camilleri, who officiated the ceremony. Pope Francis visited over 60 states during his papacy, including landmark trips Island. The pontiff had met with then Cuba's revolutionary leader, Fidel Castro, hours after holding mass for thousands in Havana as their country entered a new era of closer ties with the United States. The Pope drew praise in Cuba for his behind-the-scenes role in supporting negotiations in 2014 that led to the historic rapprochement between the United States and Cuba. In 2023, he also held talks in the Vatican for some 40 minutes with Diaz-Canel, who went in a rare trip to the West. U.S. Congresswoman Frederica Wilson visited the Chrome North Service Processing Center in Miami and said to media she saw a tent city to house a new influx of detained immigrants. Wilson described the structure as 2 stories tall, capable of accommodating hundreds, and constructed from plexiglass. The Congresswoman expressed concern over the growing need for such facilities, attributing the increase in detainees to the recently passed Laken-Riley Act, which mandates the detention of immigrants charged with certain crimes. Wilson noted that the facility's expansion can occur rapidly, with new structures built within 14 days to manage overcrowding. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre has addressed an excitable crowd at a rally in Saskatoon, laying out his plans for the future of Canada. The Liberals currently hold 42.9% support, followed by Poilievre's Conservatives at 39.3% and the New Democratic Party at 7.2%, according to the CTV News Globe and Mail Nanos poll. Liberal support is typically more efficiently distributed across Canada, resulting in more parliamentary seats. The Conservatives tend to win by large margins in rural areas with fewer seats. Carney remains the preferred choice as Prime Minister, but Poilievre is narrowing that gap, the Nanos poll said. South Korea's former President Moon Jae-in has said on Friday that prosecutors were becoming political and abusing their power, and that his indictment on bribery charges was a good example. South Korean prosecutors indicted Moon for alleged bribery on Thursday, making him the latest former leader of the country to face legal troubles in a case linked to the employment of his new then son-in-law at the Thai island between 2018 and 2020. Moon said the indictment against him was unfair and accused the prosecutors of pursuing the case in a predetermined direction. Prosecutors had been investigating whether former lawmaker Lee Sang-jaek's appointment as the head of the SMEs and the startup agency was in exchange for Moon's former son-in-law getting a job and receiving a salary plus living expenses at the Thai-based corporation that Lee controlled. Lee was indicted for bribery and breach of trust in the case, according to the statement. Brazilian Supreme Court Judge Alexander de Moraes rejected former Brazilian President Fernando Collor de Mello's challenges against a previous conviction and ordered his immediate arrest. The order comes after the Supreme Court in 2023 sentenced Collor, the first president to win the popular vote after the end of Brazil's last military dictatorship in 1985, to 8 years and 10 months in prison on corruption and money laundering charges. In his decision, Moraes also requested a session with the full Supreme Court to decide whether to uphold or reject his decision. The 2023 conviction followed Brazilian prosecutor's office accusation that Collor received around $5.28 million in bribes from a then subsidiary of state-run oil company Petrobras. Collor took office as president in 1990 but did not finish his term as Congress decided to impeach him 2 years later amid a separate corruption scandal from which Supreme Court acquitted him in 1994. He later was elected senator. And as the news is hour, many thanks for watching. E-Vibes is next with Chechinwo Kunta. See you later.
Baby is coming. You look hot.
Every time she's looking hot. Now you know what you look.
No, me I need chop for money.
Yeah, I'm talking property.
Chop akra.
Who buy for who?
Me I buy, he come with me.
Oh, really?
I chop for money, come, you just come inside. See your water.
What a week! Oh, what a week! Jeez. Thank you guys. Thank you for watching. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you. Always tune in when you see me online. Always love to hear from you. Thank you.